Hello, everyone who is watching and who will end up watching this later. Welcome to the second part of the Queen City Black Comics Day virtual panel with our wonderful local and regional comics creators. My name Black Comics Day virtual panel with our.
Oh, we got the sound.
Come on, you got to be kidding me now.
Yeah.
We got the sound.
Let me mute my stuff. I'm tripping.
Yeah. Is that you?
That's probably me. That's probably me.
No, he was just testing the sound, making sure we were good.
Yeah, because I'm doing like 8 million things at once.
Exactly.
I got people texting me and everything.
No, he was just testing the sound, making sure we were good.
Because I'm doing like 8 million things at once.
Exactly.
I got people texting me and everything.
No, he was just testing the sound, making sure we were good.
I'm doing like 8 million.
We're getting a ton of feedback, so I muted everyone except for myself, so hold on for a second. We're getting a ton of feedback, so I muted everyone except for myself, so hold on for a second. We're getting a ton of feedback, so oh my goodness. I muted everyone except for myself, so hold on for a second. We're getting a ton of feedback, so oh my goodness. Muted everyone except for myself, so hold on for a second. Oh my goodness. Hold on. All right, let's try that again.
All right.
There we go.
Hey. So we should be good now. So let me do that intro one more again. My name is Aisha Little, and I am the co-founder of the Midwest Black Speculative Fiction Alliance, based here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And welcome to the Queen City Black Comics Day virtual panel with our comics creators, local and regional, part 2. I had some issues, some technical difficulties last month and ended up having on a couple of the ladies to talk about the comics that they are putting together. So we had to, Queen Latifah, ladies first. So now we're going to have the fellas tell us about what they've got going on. I just want to have each of you kind of run through and introduce yourselves. So let's start with Ricky.
All right. First off, thank you, Aisha, for inviting me. I'm really excited to talk to everybody today about Breakaway Comics and Princess Zaya and the Golden Orchid. I started Breakaway Comics in the midst of the pandemic. An idea just came to me. I was really excited about it, and I figured, why not go ahead and get started? And Breakaway Comics, the hook of it is it's a regular story and everything, but you get to tell the rest of the story yourself. So it comes with colored pencils and all of that stuff, and it's to encourage imagination, creativity, reading, all of the above. So that's Breakaway Comics in a nutshell.
Love
Excellent.
it. That's dope.
Thank you.
Victor, you want to go ahead?
Yes, I will try to follow that up. That is an amazing setup. I'm not even gonna lie. We need to talk, Ricky, for real. I'm Victor Dandridge, self-publishing creator from Columbus, Ohio. I self-published, through my imprint Vantage Inhouse Productions, which celebrated 10 years of publication in 2020. So very, very excited. Thank you. To be able to do so full-time for the last 10 years has been a blessing. And truly something I adore. Like Ricky, I am into encouraging others to create as well. So I have a system called You Create Comics that's both a product line as well as programming that I take into schools and other educational facilities to get kids to see the value of reading comics, creating comics, both in terms of education, but also in entrepreneurship. So Ricky, I really like what you've got with your piece. That is so dope to start a story and go, now you break away and tell the rest of it.
He said
that's dope. That's dope. I mean, it's right there. Got to give those roses. That's fantastic. I love it.
Man. Man, I don't know. I feel like I'm just up here being a little rookie dude. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all, I'm trying to get like y'all. You know what I mean?
At least we all had to start somewhere.
That's how black people be like, man. I'm just trying to get like you.
Man.
For real. You know what I'm saying? So, no, like, I go by the stage name Juice Lee. I am a rapper and more recently a comic book creator. I saw him with the book. You know what I'm saying? I saw Ricky with the book. I was like, oh man, I gotta bring out my book too. So, plus I'm like, representing a little brand here. But yeah, my little comic is called Scrap. It's basically the TLDR of it is this girl, she is trained since she was a little kid in martial arts, traditional martial arts, and then through a series of crazy circumstances, she gets thrown into the deep end of the world of MMA. The big thing about my book is, because we go on our journey with like her learning mixed martial arts and like get into cage fighting and all this other stuff. But like the big thing about my book is, everybody on the planet understands fighting, and there's no definitive idea of what a fighter is. You know what I'm saying? And so, and it's basically to promote the idea that martial arts is for everybody, and everybody, can get something out of martial arts. It doesn't even have to be like, hey, I'm going to go compete or whatever. Aside from like, fitness or whatever, there's a lot of stuff internally that martial arts does for you, and helps you build confidence and helps you build your character as a person. You know what I'm saying? So. But my biggest thing is I wanted to create a story where you see fighters who don't look like the typical fighters that you see in media. You know what I'm saying? And like, I just wanted to do that, and like that was like kind of the big goal is exploring that. And plus, like, it's just my love letter to like martial arts movies, martial arts video games, all this other stuff. Obviously mixed martial arts and all that stuff like that. But like the biggest idea was the diversity in martial arts that I wanted to push, and just show that there.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I think we
Did
lost
it freeze for me? Oh, okay. I thought that was just me for a second.
We'll give him a second to come back to us. But he was talking about the kind of the journey, and I wanted to get a little bit more into each of your journeys. Like, where did you start with comics? How did you get into comics?
Who wants to go first?
You, Ricky, or Victor?
I'll jump in there. Comics have always been a part of my life, especially at a young age. The section of the newspaper that I always gravitated towards was the comic section, especially on Sundays when it was printed in color. It was like, oh yes. So when I was young, I would always get those and read those before I started getting into more traditional comic books. I always wanted to make my own. Me and my friends would draw, use all the loose leaf paper in the classroom, get the teacher mad, making comic books, making up our own stories. I got away from it a little bit as you get older, life starts to happen, but I was really happy to be able to return back to those roots, those creative roots. It got the juices flowing, it got the mind going. And I'm just super excited to be able to just jump back in and create something like this so others can be able to feel how I felt when I was younger, when I first picked up the comic strips and comic books that I read.
Nice.
Very nice. So my story with it, people that know me have heard it a bajillion times, but I love telling it. I hated reading as a child. Like, books were evil. They were of the devil. If you give a mouse a cookie, I didn't want to have nothing to do with it. That book wasn't a jam. I'm not going to front. But everything changed when they announced on the news that Superman was going to die. And as a child of the 80s, I was very aware of pop culture. That was part of my everyday upbringing of self. And so when you say, Superman, pop culturally, oh, Juice is back. What up, Juice?
Yeah. Hey, it's my bad. I don't know what happened. My computer's been goofy.
No worries.
No.
I have no idea how much of my spiel you heard or whatever before my thing cut out.
We caught quite a bit.
We got it.
That's cool. That's cool. But yeah, that's the thing. So yeah. But anyway, but go ahead. I mean to cut you
No
off.
worries, no
We're
worries,
just
no
talking
worries.
about comic creator
Yeah.
origin stories here.
Yes, yes. And mine might be like super comic booky. I'm not gonna lie. So, like I said, they announced on the news that Superman's gonna die, and I'm like, well, I want to read that, right? Because you know who Superman, like everybody knows who Superman is.
Right.
And so when you get that announcement, you're like, well, how does he die? I didn't have any idea that this was a marketing ploy. I thought this was a legitimate, they're gonna kill Superman. And so my mom, who worked at one of the local malls, City Center Mall, that had a Lazarus, and on the 5th floor of this Lazarus, there was a comic shop. So she comes home with a stack of books, like, boom, read these. None of them were Death of Superman. Like, I didn't know how that stuff worked. I'm thinking, like, as soon as they announced it, that book is available. It wasn't. But I fell in love. And from that moment on, like, it changed everything. Like, I wanted to read more. Somehow, the story of me getting into comics comes out, and on my father's side of the family, who were all a bit more sports oriented than I was a skinny, scrawny kid. Don't let these shoulders fool you. I bought these from Amazon years later. Like, it took a while, but like, I wasn't the sports kid, like, not at all. And so that was really their vibe until I started talking about comic books, and they're like, you like comics? Well, we grew up with comics. Like, my dad is like, yo, I love, different characters. Black Bolt, King of the Inhumans, like, who is now one of my favorite characters because of my dad. I find out 3 of my uncles can draw. And I'm like, where have y'all been this whole time?
Right. Yep.
Like, what is this? You know what I mean? And the youngest of my uncles, my Uncle Mark, really took a shine to my interest and was one of the loudest voices to say, we couldn't pursue this professionally at the time, in the late 60s, early 70s, we couldn't do this because things were more practical and everything was based in New York, and we're here in Ohio, and you can't do that. But you're going to find a way. We're going to make sure that you find a way. Nice. And like a year into my journey into getting into comics, my Uncle Mark was a victim of violent crime. And as a ode to him, right? Vow by candlelight, much in the same way that Batman said about his parents or Peter Parker said about his beloved uncle, I decreed that I was going to do something in comics in honor of my uncle. And that had been my driving force for years, through middle school, high school, my little toe dips into college, and actually starting my own imprint. So that's really where I come in. Is I was the kid that didn't like to read, found comics, found family, within comics, and just kept it going and just kept building. So that's me.
That's awesome.
That's what's up.
Thank you.
Nice.
That is definitely what's up.
Thank you.
So yeah. But yeah, so I'm assuming everybody went through their origin stories now. So basically me, like, my mom, she was a school teacher, and she basically was like, she was determined to make sure I was educated, had all the experiences that she didn't have. So she like threw me into took me to plays, different operas, all this other stuff. But she was an avid reader. And so she was like, well, since you're probably not going to want to read whatever thick books, I'll make sure, like, if you do XYZ, I'll make sure to take you to the comic shop every week. You know what I'm saying? Because you like comics. And so, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I would, like, basically I would do, whatever is chores, or make sure I had, like, pretty good grades. You know what I'm saying? So all throughout elementary school, we'd go down to, like, this comic shop. And it was, like, this comic shop in Mount Airy. It's not there anymore, but, like, we would go there, and, like, I would just, like, thumb through comics. I get, like, maybe 2 or 3 books. And then I come to find out that my cousin, he had a treasure trove of, like, just old Avengers comics that like he had just had over the years. And he was like, man, I don't want these no more. I ain't got no use for them. And so he just gave them to me, like 19-year-old me. And, like, so I got caught up on, like, hell of Avengers and Iron Man through the 80s. You know what I'm saying? And, like, I was like, damn, okay, this is cool. You know, that's a come up. Oh yeah, it was a come up for real. But, like, I had that, and then, obviously just I was hooked from there. We used to go to, like, all the, like, me and my mom, like, we used to go to all the any movies that came out, any superhero movies that came out, we went to them. Like, we saw all the Batmans, even the bad ones. You know what I'm saying? And it was just a big thing. I was like, kind of our thing. We'd go to all these movies. But what it did is all of that stuff, it made me want to, one, make movies, you know what I'm saying? Because I was like, man, I want to be the director, you know what I'm saying? This, and this. And I wanted to do that for the longest time. And like, you know, so when I got out of high school, I kept trying to make short films. I kept trying to do all this stuff, but none of that stuff panned out. So I just made music, you know what I'm saying? And I made music for quite some time. And, you know, I kept bouncing around with stuff. Sometimes I would have spells where I'd be like, I'm gonna get mad at music and then, you know, go write scripts and then come back to making music again. And like I had that cycle for a few years. And then like I ended up getting a writing job for a television pilot. This was like 2011. And so basically that was an experience of itself because, you know, I didn't understand how the game worked. And, you know, these guys were just like basically taking advantage of me writing tons and tons and tons of scripts for them. You know what I'm saying? And then they never used anything. And then they gave me my little nickel for like one script and say, we'll option it. But come to find out, that doesn't mean anything in trying to get into the Screenwriters Guild. But that whole experience was like, damn, you know, it gave me the confidence to be like, I can do this thing. And I want to do ultimately animation. But like, I was like, well, I took these ideas that I gave them and those ideas were cool. But now I can just make, I got confidence to make better stuff. And I was like, well, since I can't pay for animation because that's super expensive and I can't film this, let me write a comic, you know what I'm saying? And then how Scrap came about was I was actually writing a completely different story, you know what I'm saying? And then like I got writer's block and like I was like, oh, I want to do this particular story, yada yada yada. And the one of the characters in the story is actually the main character in this book. She was actually like a side character in that other story. But like, I was like, you know, it'd be great if this thing got popular and I did a spinoff. And if I did a spinoff, it would be this and this and this. And those ideas kept building and kept building and kept building. And then like, meanwhile, I still got writer's block on my original idea. Like, I was just like,
no, it wasn't writer's block. It was opening you up to everything else. That's
right.
What it was.
Going where you needed to go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it just kept building and building and building. It was like, okay, well, let me just write like, I'm gonna just do like the first episode, and then episode 1 turned into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then like next thing I know, I got like 16 episodes, like 16 television scripts that I'm like, okay, this actually translates to like 32 comics. So probably need to work on this as a comic. And then like, you know, lo and behold, I had years prior, I had befriended a guy, Jamel Hemphill. He's out in Oakland. He has National Press Comics. And like, I submitted something to him like years and years ago, and we just got cool. And he was like, yeah, man, this idea that you have now, let's mess with it. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? But I still had to get the money up, still had to get like everything up because I don't draw. So I'm just a writer. And like, I just started finding artists and went through all of these different trials and errors, trying to find different artists and different stuff. And like, ultimately everything that is now, that is this book now has taken probably like 3.5 to 4 years, you know what I'm saying? And so, it's been a crazy experience, but yeah, that's my origin into comics and the TLDR version, you know what I'm saying? So that's that.
Love it.
So Ricky, so Juice was just talking about like how he got inspired. What inspired you to like come up with the type of comic that you are promoting now?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out. My wife and I were watching my niece and nephew, and they love telling us stories, all types of stories, all the time. And
how old are they?
They're 8 and 7.
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
So they were a little younger when this happened, but they were drawing and telling us stories. They know when they come over to Uncle Auntie's house, they're going to do some arts and crafts and enjoy themselves. We got to keep them busy. And they started drawing these characters, telling these stories. And so I was down there with them and I'm like, what happens to this person? And it just went super left. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I was like, well, what about that character that you introduced there? And they were like, well, they came from here, and it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. Just immediately, I was like, oh, kids love telling stories. They have these huge imaginations.
Mm-hmm.
They have these ideas. Let's try and format it in a way so that they can feel comfortable telling their stories. And although it's blank panels in my comics, it's this whole thing of trying to encourage them, like, hey, you don't have to know how to draw super, super good, but yours is enough. It works for your story.
Yeah. And, I mean, I'm not to cut you off, but the guy that drew One Punch Man, he did One Punch Man because he wanted to learn how to draw. And like, if you look at those panels of One Punch Man, like when he started, you know what I'm saying?
The learning process.
But everybody was like, we love the story so much that it blew up. You know what I'm saying? And so that was the thing.
And that's part of the idea. And it's kind of going back to what you were saying, where how you had writer's block initially, but something spun off of that. And it's usually never the first idea. So although Princess Zaya and the other comics that'll come after this are kind of like a gateway towards getting anybody, really, it's not just kids, it's focused geared towards kids, but it's anybody that wants to do this to have an opportunity to be creative, but hopefully something else spins off of it. And it might not even be anything that's artsy that spins off of it, but some type of idea for a business or another thing that you realize that it is that you want to be able to do and participate in spins off of it because of how you led this character through this journey. And you can mirror yourself in it as well. So that's really how everything kind of came to be, is out of the mouths of babes, as they say. So I'm super appreciative for them being over there, and I'm sure their parents were happy that we were watching them at the time.
Right.
Little date night turns into a business.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
So Victor, you write and you draw.
Well, let me be fair. I can draw. I don't like to draw. So I will hire other people to do the work because I don't want to do that. But yeah, I can. I just don't want to. Yeah, no, if I get my way, no, I'd rather have somebody that really has a passion for drawing comics, draw the comics, because I have a passion for writing them.
Yeah.
That's where it stops and starts. But yeah, like, I mean, I went through, all of my middle school and high school career as, an arts-minded, student. I actually graduated with a certification in commercial art from Fort Hays Metropolitan Education Center, which is an arts impact high school. Like, that's how focused on the art side I was. I attended Columbus College of Art and Design for a little while. Again, very arts focused, but any real skill set that I have in visual communication, it's really all about how do I tell stories better and collaborate better with the people that I'm working with. Because, if you catch me with a pencil, it's a rare day. Okay, it's a rare day. But what's amazing is, so like with the You Create line, Ricky, I think you are 100% correct in terms of the imagination and the power of imagination in kids. One of the biggest impetuses for that, there was a company that I was working through. I was commissioned to work through. And they were doing stuff for kids, but they were doing it in a way that I thought was wrong. And I'm gonna be flat out honest about that. What they were doing was they were taking concepts from kids and then commissioning, semi-pro, to pro creators to bring it to life, as opposed to letting the kids do it. And there's something so much more powerful in instilling that creativity in the kids.
Let me ask you this: was it like did they just say, the kids had, hey, I have character A, and then they'd be like, okay, cool, we'll take character A, and then we're gonna put this whole crazy spin on it and like do this, and this. Like, it was
kind of like that.
Like the kid didn't really have input like in the process.
Right. Yeah, they didn't. It was like they'd have like a little bit of rubric. What kind of powers would you like to have? Da 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 da. And then they send it over to the artist, and then the kid gets a product back. But they're not hands-on with it. And that was the thing. I was like, no, you took the best part of this process away from the kids. They need to create things. They need to feel empowered, not just to see the end result. They need to be a part of making it happen, if not doing it all themselves. And that's where You Create Comics come from, because it's all about telling kids, like, you can do this. You don't have to wait till you're older. here are the tools and the skill sets that you need in order to do this. And you already have the one base skill that everybody, wants is imagination. As long as no one's told you that you can't do it, you're more inclined to come up with anything and everything and just make it work. So let me just give you the tools to do that.
Yeah, and on top of that, the other thing about that is, kids have nothing but time. You know what I'm saying? And since they have nothing but time, like, that's the drawback to us as adults is like we are limited in what we can do. Like, even if we're doing this full time, is still kind of limited. Like, how much time can you spend on this because you have
only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah, you have to do X, Y, Z. Whereas a kid, time is way different to them, and so they can be like, oh well, I want to do this, and 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 then like it comes out, and that's why we're amazed because it's like, wow, these kids are like doing stuff at light speed. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's always a thing. Like, especially when and sometimes I'll always kind of go back to fighting for my analogies, but like, it's like it's kids that are doing stuff like in martial arts, especially like jiu-jitsu, that like guys that are seasoned veterans, they're like, how is this kid doing this? How is this kid coming up with this and thinking of this on their own? And then they're like, okay, we need to take notes because you just learned this. You know what I mean? And it's because the way their brains are working, man. And like, as long as you're fostering that and like making that grow, then like you're gonna see the next generation basically,
of course,
blow by whatever we could do.
Of course. So,
they don't have the rigidity of adulthood has not set in on them yet.
Absolutely.
To piggyback off of what Juice was saying, I have a background also in education. I worked for a program called the Upward Bound program, and that specifically worked with students who mainly grew up in the inner city and gave them an opportunity to go to be on the college campus, understand what it's like to be on the college campus, to prepare them so when it is their time to go. And working with those students, although they were a little older, and younger kids' imaginations are wild. And like you all say, as you get older, it kind of starts to diminish because life begins to happen. But working with those students and seeing the creativity and the ideas that they had about how to handle certain situations or how to create opportunities for themselves is also something that really encourages me. And then I'm really excited to see when teenagers get their hands on comic books, because they're not adults quite yet, and they're not yet kids, so they have that real interest in middle ground. And it's like, oh, the storytelling is about to happen. I understand where this is coming from. And hopefully it also results in some self-healing and self-maintenance as well. You tend to write out things. It's a lot easier to write things out than to say it. So hopefully it's an opportunity for those kids to be able to get some of the things that they have inside of them out as well.
Especially when you can make it someone else's story, as opposed to your own. That stuff is important. Being able to deal and address things effectively, adequately. Since we're showing off work, my book, The Trouble with Love, came out in 2012. We did a Kickstarter for it last fall as a re-release. This story is very personal to me. It's about, a marriage that breaks up due to an affair. It's about a relationship between a father and a child, to really kind of have an understanding of why the dad made the choices that they did and how, that impacts the kid and how the kid has a perspective on those choices and what they want to say about it. There's so many things that you get, to put on the page that you really can't say to some people, either through circumstances, time, or simple ability to be heard. There's times where, you could put some art down and somebody years down the line would go, "Were you talking about me?" And you go, "Yeah, I was." And they go, "I appreciate, I couldn't hear it then. I can hear it now." Like it gives you that opportunity. So that's huge.
Yeah, definitely.
Ricky, earlier you were talking about kind of losing your way creatively, you know, and being able to get back to that during the pandemic and come up with Breakaway Comics. Like, what do you think caused that loss? Like, what?
I was really close to my grandmother, and we always watched wrestling, about all different types of fictional things, books. I would introduce certain comic characters to her. She would introduce certain things to me. And I lost her in 2000. And that's when everything kind of started to slow down for me. I tried to stay as active as I could, especially as I got older. I ended up getting a certificate in screenwriting on top of, graduating from college. So because I always had this itch to want to write, to want to be a part of something, build something creatively similar to Juice, the film piece of it. I really wanted to dive into that side. Found out very quickly that I am not a director. So it was a lot of testing that I had to do with myself to kind of go back and realize, like, hey, it was the original thing that you were in love with. That you should consistently focus on and help build and grow that within yourself. And the pandemic, everything got shut down. Everything was quiet, and I had time to kind of reflect on a lot of those things. So I'm happy that I was able to kind of address that within myself, come back towards being the creative and writing more and being active and working with other artists and the piece. And Vic said something super that was like, it hit me. I can't draw myself, but being able to work with others whose passion it is, and they get what you're trying to say through just your words and be able to draw it out and put it on a screen now, it's a different type of feeling. So all of that helped build my energy back up for being creative, and I'm just super excited about where it's gonna go now.
That's dope.
Yeah,
that's super dope.
So how do the three of you pick what artists you're going to work with? Like, is it?
Man.
I imagine that is an ongoing process.
It is. Like I mean, I kind of have it depends. Like, okay, because what I've found out, especially like in this last year and a half of like just courting artists, is it's just like playing different positions in like sports. I mean, you got some people who are good for doing certain things. So like maybe I'll get this artist on, like have them do a cover. These artists or this artist over here, maybe they could actually do panels, or you know what I'm saying? This artist over here, maybe I just have them do like a one-off or like some type of specific type of thing. And then you figure out like their strengths and weaknesses and what they can do and what they can't do. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't have somebody who's really good at like, doing like busts or whatever. Don't have them do mechs or something. You know what I mean? Don't you don't do that. But like, I don't know, man. It's a particular style. Like, especially like for me, as I've been going along doing this and talking to different artists and whatnot, I figure out like what certain styles that people resonate with. And like a lot of the people that like follow my book, they like more of the anime style and anime type stuff. So then they have their particular characters that they gravitate towards, because I'm always looking at like the numbers and seeing like the demo of people who were like my stuff and being like, oh, everybody likes this. Like when I started this book, I had no idea that this book would like resonate like high, like with like teenage girls. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, it makes sense when you say it out loud. It's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. But like I'm sitting here just,
that wasn't your goal.
Yeah, it was like, hey, I'm sitting here writing about my love of fighting and mixed martial arts, which pretty much is a male dominated sport. So I'm like, but then I got all of these girls and I'm like, I love this character, I love her, she's this, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. All right,
but your main character is a teenage girl.
It is. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I mean, like I said, when you say it out loud, it makes sense. But it wasn't what I was thinking when I was writing it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, hey, I just want to do this because this would be a thing. You know what I'm saying? So, but getting back to the point of the artist, man, like I just look for, I look for, a certain type of style that I feel like would resonate with the people who follow my stuff. But also, I look for like their consistency, because there's some people that like will put up something and then they just run away, and then like you can't get anything back from them, and then or they have like astronomical commission prices, and you like, how come you want this amount of money for this, and then I got my homie over here who's doing what you're doing comparable, and he's doing it for a third of that, like. And then, you know what I mean? Because I don't have a problem paying the artist, but like at the same time, I'm like, well, what we doing here? You know what I mean? Yeah, I have a budget. You know what I'm saying? I have a particular budget in mind, and so I don't know. It's weird. And then just learn how to talk to people and being patient with people, because again,
that's definitely a thing.
Everybody got lives, and everybody got different stuff that they're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Like I got my one cat. Who he actually did a lot of my covers. I know he's going through some stuff right now, and I asked him for a piece like, you know, maybe like a month and a half ago, but I know he's going through some stuff, so I'm not tripping on him, you know what I'm saying? Whereas like somebody else who I don't really know that well, you know what I'm saying, they might be like, hey, I did this, and then I paid them, and then a month later I'm still looking for the stuff, like what were we doing, you know what I mean? But I know my man's going through some stuff, so I'm like, you know, let me back up, you know what I mean? Because I know he's trying to fix some things in his life. So I'm like, oh, it's cool, you know what I mean?
Being a person, literally being a person.
Yeah.
Right. You gotta build relationships with people so that you can get the work that you need.
Yeah, exactly. So
what about you, Victor?
Yeah. Oh, I'm a monster when it comes to this stuff. Like I'm horrible to people. Because here's the thing.
Somehow I don't see that being.
No, I'm telling you, I'm brutal. I'm absolutely a tyrant. I know what I want, and the thing is because I have an art background, there are a lot of, we'll say, excuses that I won't tolerate, because I know what actually goes into this. You know, I'm not the dude that's like, okay, I'm gonna write this picture for you to draw, but then I don't know what you're doing. No, I know what you're doing. So what are you doing? You know, no, but I've been very fortunate to work with some very talented folks. Actually, I don't know if you guys can see this. So based on the style of the story, it all dictates and determines who I try to work with. So Justin Castaneda has such a brilliant kid-friendly style. So when we got together on Wonder Care Presents the Kinderguardians, it was a no-brainer. It was, you know, with the book that is Muppet Babies meets the Justice League, he's got the right style to get us there. You know what I mean? Like it's all about finding the right voice visually to match the voice of the story. Jacob Newell was great for, you know, a teen-friendly title, very detail-oriented. It worked out very, very well. Harold Edge on The Trouble with Love, his style, it had emotion, dynamics, everything. And so knowing the stories that I'm trying to tell makes it that much easier to find the artist who can do it. And that's the whole thing. You know, like Juice was saying, I'm the guy that I have a budget in mind. I will not ask you your page rate. Your page rate is irrelevant to my budget. So I'll tell you, this is what I've got. Here's the project. Yes or no?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we keep it super simple. Now, I will say that due to my connections in the industry, particularly with Comic Cons, I can offer some different things. You know, like I'll pay you a page rate or a book commission rate, but I'll also get you a table at a prestigious show. One that maybe you can't get into on your own, but I've got the connects that I can get you in there, and I'll front you the table itself, you know, and just kind of build that way. You know, I've definitely done that with different folks that I've worked with. And, you know, in some cases it built a great partnership, and other times it built a huge friendship. And that way we can all grow in the industry together. Because again, if you're not getting the shine, then your value to my book won't be as high. You know, that's one of the things I have to tell artists all the time. Your ability to draw is secondary, right? Yeah. It's got to be, can you tell the story, and can you tell the story well, right? Like that's so important. And the more you can do that, the more I'm going to talk about you, the more I'm going to showcase you, and the more that I think your position in the industry should in fact grow. You know, obviously you got to be more cognizant. Artists, if you guys are out here, please hear me when I say this. Be cognizant of the market that you're catering to. Not all comics are built the same way. And I need y'all to understand that your skill level is not a statement therein or in terms of your paycheck. That's not the way that works. If you are very talented and you go work at Marvel or DC, they're setting the price for your first project. until you are a proven commodity, until you have proven to move units, they set the price of your value. And usually that starts at $100 a page. Now, in the small press market, you know, where we're not corporately funded, the whole idea here is not the amount of time that it takes you to do this, because one, the amount of time that it takes you to take is yours to determine. Yes, I can write 1,000 zombies come over the hill, and it only takes me 2 seconds to write that. You're absolutely right. And it will take you longer to intimate, not actually draw, but to intimate 1,000 zombies coming over the hill. Because one, if you think I'm a count to make sure that you drew 1,000 zombies, you're out of your mind. Okay, that's not happening. That is not happening. And two, your job is just to facilitate the idea visually. Don't do that. You know, make the right impression, create a crowd scenario, and keep it moving. That's your job, because the last thing you want to do is get to Marvel and DC and you can't keep your monthly schedule because you got to draw all these little intricate things. You'll get fired quicker than a little bit. The small press is the place to gain those skills. Yes, you can gain some money. I would never tell anybody to do something for free, but be cognizant of the fact that the small press market don't have corporate funding. We can't just pay you what you feel you deserve. You have to think this through in terms of product and return on investment. If we can only afford to make so much product that we will sell to make profit, we can only afford to pay you so much. That's not a statement that you're whack, that you're not professional. It's literally the idea that in this scale of the market, we have to work together in order to find success. It's not an either or. It's not you're more important than I am. It's not I'm more important than you are. We have to work together, period, to find the right level of success. And I'll tell you straight up, if I paid you, you know, on a measly end, $10 a page, but somehow I got all kinds of acclaim and accolades and a movie option deal, if I got that off of $10 a page, please believe your paycheck goes up the next time around. Because if you could get me that off of $10, what would you do if I paid you $100?
Right.
That's the way I think, and I think that's the way a lot of people think.
Right.
So,
and that's, I mean, not just not to cut you off. That goes back into the whole idea of loyalty to like certain artists. Like there's a couple of artists that like I've went back to, and like is mainly because like they're good, but like they're consistent. You know what I'm saying? And then every time I put something out, like put something on my page from them, it's hitting. It's like, okay, I need to mess with this guy because this is what people are feeling, and I'm more than happy to pay whatever they ask. You know what I'm saying? And like, because it's gonna help me be like, okay, we're getting to this level. And then on top of that, it often spills back to them. Like one guy that I know, and it's just in terms of Instagram, but like one guy that I know that has done like a considerable amount of stuff on my page. When I first like found him, because I think he liked one of my pictures at one point or another, but like I found him and he had like 400 followers or something like that. But like, and that was at the beginning of the year. At this point now, he's kind of like over like 1,600. You know what I'm saying? And it's mainly because other people see what they've done for me, and then they're like, oh, let me get at him, or oh, let me follow him because da 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 da. And then other outlets are picking him up like, yo, he did da 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 da. And I'm like, hey, that's my man. That's my man. Hey, go do it. You know what I mean? So
I went a different route because this was my first time diving into this industry. So I have a background in business. And so I was like, what's the best way for me to do this? How I know how to. I went through Upwork. And I found, I'm going to shout him out every time. Zach Hanna.
Yeah.
First time we built such a relationship over the time of creating this, and how he was able to craft everything just off of my words. He asked questions. He brought ideas. I'm not a drawer. I'm not an artist from that sense. So I relied on him a lot, and everything that he brought back to me made sense. Nice. And that was what was really important to me, is that we were able to build a real relationship, creative relationship, and also a relationship outside of just the book. So we can be able to vibe off of each other. And we were on Zoom the whole time. because he's across the country. So that was a different route, and what you all are saying on the business side and Upwork really helped with that because it set up a contract.
Yeah, I was gonna say Upwork was how I found the guys that did the interiors of my book too.
Yeah.
But and they were from Brazil, and like I won't lie, like it started out rocky at first, but it started out rocky because it was my fault that I didn't understand what I was doing. And I'll be 100% frank with that and be like, I didn't understand what I was doing when I stepped into doing this, because I wrote a screenplay and I'm like, hey,
that's not the same as the comic.
Here's my screenplay. Let me give it to these Brazilian guys, and first let them translate my screenplay, and hopefully everything works out. And that didn't work out. So, but then like I went back and was like, oh wait, I have to do this, this, and this, and this, and I have to actually write it in a comic script, which is a particular format that you have to do. And then we like that. This first issue, it was like, it was some ups and downs on it. It's like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. Da 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 da. And then like I was frustrated at them, but like it was my fault because I put them in a bad position. But after we talked about it and after we discussed everything kind of like fell into place, because issue 2 came and I sent them the comic script and everything went so smoothly. Everything went perfect. Like, they had this, and this, and it was all perfect. But the other thing about Upwork was we initially established our relationship in Upwork, but because they were telling me on their end, Upwork takes so much money, it was like, let's establish a relationship outside of Upwork. And once we did that, stuff started working. Stuff started working really well, and like everything just went like extraordinarily better. You know what I'm saying? Plus, they got to see more of the money. You know what I'm saying? So that was a big part of it too.
And
but yeah, like Upwork is definitely a way to start, because I tell my filmmaker friend, like, who actually he's in Columbus, but I tell him like, yo, if you're trying to get a comic, go to Upwork, find your guy or whoever you want to do, find them first, establish the relationship. You know what I'm saying? Because Upwork is more to protect, like, the person who is the contractor, or you know what I'm saying, the commissioner. The commissioner is more to protect them as opposed to the artist. You know what I'm saying? But after you find that person, get around them. That way they get more of their money and you get like a better product and you have a better communication. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, that's what I would say. Like, it's definitely good in that regard. Yeah. So,
nice.
You were going to say something else, Ricky?
Oh, I was just going to say, my main character is a teenage black girl, so I wanted to find somebody black too, and that's difficult in itself. And it's not a thing, because I spoke to multiple people and they're amazing artists. The style was mainly the thing, the decision that led me to Zach, but it also benefited that he was black as well, and he would be able to understand the aesthetic that I was trying to go for in this. And that might not be the case for other things that I work on, but this specifically, I definitely wanted to have someone that understood the culture and had some semblance of experience with the Black experience overall.
Yeah. So just real quick, just to add on what you're saying, the reason I picked my cover artist is because he's a black guy that can understand how to draw black hair. Mm-hmm. So
I was gonna say something about the hair,
and that was so important to me, mm-hmm. like, because I've met so many artists that, like, they don't understand black hair, and I was just like, man, this is gonna be hard. But when I saw him, and I was like, yo, I saw everything he was doing. It's like, this got to be a black dude, because his character's black hair was so perfect, and I was like,
it's the little things.
It's the little things, man. Like,
you can do that, you my guy, because you're gonna be able to figure. Are you my girl? You can figure everything else out.
Exactly.
Yeah, the hair was a very big deal for me too. Mm-hmm. I just want us to be able to be represented in the way, in how we actually look day to day.
Right.
So if that means that I have to find someone that could do an Afro puff, I'm gonna find somebody that could do an Afro puff.
Bam. Yep. Yep. All day.
We as readers appreciate that too, because there is nothing. I mean, there are things worse, but one of the things of looking at a book and being like, this hair is doing something that it shouldn't be doing here.
Yeah, I saw a meme like that like a while ago where it was like the reason why you'll see a lot of black characters with bald heads is because the artists don't know how to draw black hair, so they just be like, you got a bald head, and that's it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Victor, you touched on Marvel, DC, like so for the last 10 years you've gone the indie route. Like, what are the advantages of doing that rather than trying to be like with one of the big wigs or something?
Well, let me be frank and say that if the big wig called, I'm gonna answer that call. Let me not act like I don't want to check. Let me not act like that. But in all actuality, there is a lot more power in being a self-publisher and operating in the scale that I have. Still hitting the major conventions. I'm a huge feature on the Wizard World Comic-Con tour. I've definitely worked with Reed Pop and the many different conventions under their imprint. So what it does is it allows for me to build and grow, gain as much information and knowledge and networking that I would have from working with Marvel and DC type entities. There are a lot of the creators that are big names there that are my friends and mentors that I have been able to speak to. And the truth is that based on the typical, framework of working for Marvel and DC, the end goal is where I am currently, is to have your own creator-owned imprint and things like that. So I started where most of those creators want to end up. And so it's kind of one of those things where I am actually ahead because I've taken the time to build these things. As I'm growing in terms of my name and clout, I already have material that I own I can't be specific about which it is, but one of my titles has been acquired for development for a cartoon series. That's something that is huge for me because that's mine. You know what I mean? Like, I get that. Right now in the industry, Ed Brubaker, who is a very talented writer, worked for everybody really, but did some big work with Marvel in basically creating the Winter Soldier. And he's gone on this very loud showcase that he's upset at how little he got for having created such a substantial character that is now featured in movies and things like that. That won't be me because that's my character. I own it. So anything that comes about from that financially, I will always get a cut of. I will always get a decent cut of because this is mine. And that's one of those things where, again, the entrepreneurship side of things is what I try to teach, kids that are 8 years old wanting to make comics, all the way up to, seniors in high school. I just did an artist residency at a local college or a college prep high school. And that was one of the biggest things for me was, listen, comics are cool. I love comics. You'll never hear me, say an unkind thing towards the geeky side of life, but let's talk money. Let's talk business. Let's say how, if you create something like this, some of these movies, they made $1 billion. If you had 1% of that $1 billion, how much money did you get? And getting these kids to think about that idea of, wait, so if I have, ownership and I only get 1%, but of $1 billion, I don't have to work ever again. No. I have to correct them. Like, no, you don't have to work ever again, but neither do your children's children have to work again. Like that's what you could do, but you have to own it. You have to put in the work, build it up. But if you own it, that's you. And we have all these different tools and resources that make that stuff so much easier than it used to be for our forebears that are just now getting into it. We can come into the game, creating our own content, owning our own content, and becoming famous within the industry with that content. So that's why I like
the story that I always love is the character of Usagi Yojimbo. You know what I'm saying? Just because like the creator of Usagi Yojimbo, he can put that character literally anywhere. And one, it can make sense or it don't have to make sense, whatever. But because he owns it, he's always gonna get like something from it, and like
no matter what,
because the character shown up in the Turtles several times. The character shown up like in all these different places and like done all these different things. I think I want to say he's shown up in like Marvel stuff. I can't remember or not.
It's possible.
Yeah. But the bottom line is he owns it. He owns it. And like,
well, the Turtles themselves are a great deal of that. You know, the Eastman and Laird really broke the mold when it came to making a creator-owned piece popular. You know, I remember hearing it might have been an old wives' tale. I hope not, though. But like they made it so popular at one point that they were just getting checks in the mail and didn't know what it was for. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude literally got a $3 million check in the mail and couldn't figure out why.
Oh gosh!
Let me get that energy. Like, let me just
let
me accidentally get a $3 million check in the mail. What's this for? I don't know. Okay. I'm gonna cash it though. I'm
not gonna question it.
That's me. Yeah. Go deposit that.
Yeah. It's just like, bruh.
Or whatever funds you need to deposit that though.
Yeah, seriously. But that's the move. You know what I'm saying? That's the move, and that's ultimately what you would want to do, because the way everything is going now is it comes down to ownership. I mean, you know, we can look at like what's happening with like, you know, Scarlett Johansson and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, you know, the way their deals were structured, it was, hey, you do the movie and then we get you on the back end of specifically the box office, not streaming. And then, you know, Disney go out and make all this money on streaming, and they kind of sort of like make some money in the box office, and then now Scarlett's like, hey, what happened? We didn't this one part of the game. You know what I'm saying?
Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that a global pandemic was going to happen.
Exactly.
Right. And so now, and now, depending on however that works, I mean, you know, that's gonna change the game forever. You know what I'm saying? And that's just for actors on the actor side. But like as far as creators go, yeah, man, it's imperative that we protect our stuff. You know what I'm saying? And it's imperative, and like I think that was the other reason why like you have a lot of people. You know, you don't have a lot of young writers. I know, like I know Marvel and DC always have this problem of they get writers obviously, but like having people come in to like make new original characters instead of somebody just getting the mantle passed down to them. You know what I'm saying? It's just like a lot of these younger creators are wise at the game. Like, hey, I don't want to give my stuff to you and never see it again and be hit. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, it's like music, owning your masters. That's where the money is.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing.
And it's just, you know, that's the big thing. And so people are always complaining about like, you know, these characters or Marvel doesn't have this diversity or DC doesn't have this diversity or whatever. I don't know. Some other stuff like that. But I'm like, the reality is like, there's no incentive, you know what I'm saying? On multiple levels, there's no incentive because, you know, the people who are reading the DC stuff, they're probably not going to buy it beyond the first issue, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, the writers themselves, they're like, I don't have enough time to cultivate this character. And then as soon as I get off the book and somebody else comes in and they don't like the character, they ship on the team book and they can get killed on the team book. You know what I'm saying? So, and we never see the character again. So, I mean, it's all that stuff. Meanwhile, us in, you know, indie land, we're constantly creating and constantly like cultivating and nurturing these characters to fruition. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, all we asking for is a couple of eyeballs on our stuff. You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to.
Jumping in real quick, that the independent side and everything, be it in comics or music or even independent films, you get very creative things. You get things that are outside of the box. You don't have to worry about, where am I going to get this from? You're looking for diversity, go look for the people that actually create the comics.
Exactly.
They're there. They exist. We're here talking right now. Go support those people. Go support the artist that's local or that's regional or that's national that it was able to overcome obstacles. Those are the people that really understand not only the business side of it because they're running everything themselves and they're doing everything themselves, but they are more. You get more of a creative story. You get more weird things, which is what I usually want to see. I want to see more weird stuff.
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. So
Definitely.
Queen of weird here. I'm all about the weird.
Yeah, the weird stuff is where it's at, man. It's like,
independent is where you need to go look.
Absolutely.
For stuff. You just have to be willing to dig a little bit further in your Google search.
Yeah,
it's okay to go to the 5th page sometimes.
And to be fair, on the indie side, you're more likely to get access to the creators behind it. So it's not just the work, but you actually can build a relationship to that creative, and that goes a long way as well.
Right. You know? I mean, that's the big thing. Like, I know with because I primarily promote on Instagram, but like, you know, I talk to everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I talk to all these people, and I'm always like in conversations about different stuff and asking people like, hey, what do you want to see? Hey, come through my stream. Hey, come through and let's just chop it up. I'll play video games. We talk about whatever, you know what I'm saying? And like, I'm always like that. And like, you know, you get like a really good amount of people, like, you know, coming through and asking different stuff. And like, and then on top of that, the other part about that too, as a fan, when you can connect to the creator like that, it's just like, oh man, this feels good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to support them more. Hey, you got a shirt? Okay, I'm gonna buy this shirt. You got these posters? I'm gonna buy these posters. Hey, you got this? Like, yo, and they're gonna tell their friends, like, hey man, go support my man's, yada yada yada, because they good people. You know what I'm saying? And they got a good product. So let's build this up. You know what I mean? And like, that's the best thing, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I ended up meeting a local creator. And he put together a comic book called Nest. I met him actually up in Detroit at MechaCon, you know, because of Maia. And I realized, like, oh, he's based in Cincinnati. Jay is like one of my favorite people. But good people. Because of that, I was able to be a character in
nice.
Look at that. That's what I'm talking about.
That's nice.
Exactly.
So,
Immortalization.
So comic book character.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Well, I don't have anything else. If you have anything else you want to talk about, like
Vic, I want to ask you something. Like, as far as like, since you are self-published, I always like to ask like people who are in your position, how do you deal with like distributors? Like, do you do anything with distributors like right now, or what? Because I know on the comic side it's crazy. Like, you got distributors out there.
There's some craziness. When it comes to distribution, I prefer direct to consumer sales, which is definitely my thing. I've talked to Diamond. They didn't pick up anything of mine. I gave them an opportunity to literally, 2019, went to San Diego, had, you know, a whole catalog of my books, and was like, here, I have, you know, 24 books through 4 or 5 different titles. Which would you want first? And I let them pick. And then so I submit everything, and they didn't respond back to me. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, that's just not the way for me.
Yeah, Diamond acted like the mafia for a while until
they are the mafia for a while, man. When it comes to comics, exactly.
Yeah, but then DC up and cut loose from him, and now they like, oh well,
listen, it's a different ball game. They're about to change very strongly if they want to maintain the foothold in the industry at all. But the thing with me in terms of distribution comes into play going backwards. You got to go with the production side first. So I got to give a shout out. Page by Page Copies and Finishing is the printer that I use. I was his first client, right? So when it came to comic books, he didn't do that at first, and so it was working with me that he got a foot into the industry to do so, and now that's what he does full time. Because of that, I have a price point that is far more competitive than your typical customer, right? Like I am considered, one of the founding members of sorts. So I have a different price point. Based on that price point, it allows for me to offer retail wholesale values that other people couldn't necessarily do. So, when I come in and I go, I'll give it to you 60% off cover price, no minimums. Wise retailers are like, yo, I'll jump on that. Like, seriously? Like, no minimums. Like, if you go through Diamond.
I think that's what my editor does at NPC, because like the price points of our books are like basically the same price points as like Marvel or DC or whatever. But I think that's because of how he has his printer set up. You know what I'm saying? And so
you got to do that. You got to do that. And I'm
I
also
have one other question.
Do you want to ask it now?
Based on this conversation that you're having right now, how does like web play into
webtoons and stuff like that?
Well, not distribution, because you're not really like, how does that play?
But you are though,
I guess.
Yeah. You definitely are. Here's the thing: if you are a modern creator, you have to mess with the web. Whether you want to read comics or you digest comics in that format is irrelevant. There is a market for it, and you'd be leaving money on the table if you don't. So, I currently have a Kickstarter on right now, and definitely digital rewards is a part of that, because there are people that prefer getting their stuff on an iPad, and that's how they read it. If you don't do that, you are foolish. Okay, let's just keep it 100.
I know
I'm one of those backers, by the way.
Yeah, I know for me, like one of the things that like I've done, or I've talked to my editor about doing this, is like places like Comix AM, or what is it, Saturday Morning AM or whatever, even Black Sands and like even Webtoons, like all of those types of places like that. I'm like, yo, I would love to like get my book in there. However, the problem is that I run into is I just don't have I don't currently have the amount of content that I need to put on there, because the thing about all of those series and everything that's on there, they manage to break up their books or their stories into like chapters, and it's like 50 and 60 chapters, but they're dropping chapters every week, and it's because they've got like a backlog of stuff that they've created. And
actually, you could do that.
Okay, I was gonna say, just let me finish.
Yeah.
But like the reason I didn't want to do that is like because I know like with the book I have now, I can chop my book up and like I can probably get like quite a few weeks out of it. But like even if I was just releasing it bi-weekly, I can still get quite a bit of time out of it. Just the 2 issues I got, because they're like both of them are like 30-page books. You know what I'm saying? So I can still chop it up and be like, all right. But the thing is, with something like that, like I would still want to wait till I have enough, and I would still want people to actually buy the book, whether it's digitally or physically. I'd still want people to buy the book as opposed to like going there, because there's still going to be a lot of people that's just going to be like, hey, I'll just read this on my whatever app, you know what I'm saying, and then that'll be it, you know what I'm saying. And like, granted, I'll get some eyeballs, and I'll get like the reason I would only want to put it on there is for the eyeballs, you know what I'm saying. It'd be like, hey, get the brand awareness, come to my page. Hopefully you'll get a book to read ahead in the future, because I want you to binge this thing, you know what I'm saying, to become a super fan. But, right now I just like, I'm waiting until I get to a certain point where I can be like, here's everything. Here's enough to where I got like a window, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like, think about like, how anime is like, anime will come out and then like, it's way behind the actual manga. Think in that concept. Like that's how I look at like trying to release to like one of those webtoons type apps.
I mean, that's not a bad thing. The only pushback that I'll give you though is don't set yourself up to compete with a market that is designed to operate differently, right? So like your typical like manga will have 4 or 5 different artists that are pumping out pages every week, right? So you're talking 4 times as much content coming out than what might even be reasonable for you to produce. What I would suggest for you is honestly start producing smaller bits of content. So say like if you take, and this is something I started doing, say you have a big story, right? But instead of telling it in 22 to 30 page blocks, you start telling it in 4-page blocks, right? Even if you have that whole story and you chop it up so that every 4 pages would be a chapter, that allows you to take that and just slowly keep making more and more stuff, which will give you that backlog. Because the biggest problem with the small press market is when we do something like this, once we drop that big load, it'll take us a long time before we can come back up and do it again.
And that's the hardest thing.
That is definitely the hard part.
Yeah,
because I always say small pieces.
Yeah, because like even right now, like as I'm producing these books right now, it's just like there's still like 2.5-3 months in between each book, you know what I'm saying? Because that's coming out of my pocket, you know what I mean? So I'm paying for everything, and it's 2.5-3 months between each book. But like, to do that on a webtoons app is just not that conducive. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so I would rather want to chop that up, obviously chop that book up and be like, hey, this, and this. But if I got like 5 or 6 of these books, 5 or 6 of these full books, then I'd be like, okay, yeah, let's start chopping these bits up, and then like I can do that bi-weekly, and then you can build people like that. That's my thinking on that.
I can't say you're wrong. I can't say you're wrong.
You reminded me of Stephanie Williams and what she did with Living Heroes, which I started just seeing her panels on Twitter. Like she was just doing a panel here and they're like posting a panel here and there. Here's the artist that I'm working with. I think it's O'Neill Jones. And then when she wanted to actually print it, it was, you already know about this. You already know about what I'm doing with these characters. Now you can go and support this actual book that I am putting out.
Right.
I'm in the consumers up. Yeah, gearing the consumers up for the actual print release. I think that's where digital can kind of jump in. Digital doesn't really work for what it is that I'm trying to do. I have to try to think about it in different types of ways. I'm still trying to consider how that will work. I'm sure there's a way. There's always a way when the computer is involved. So, yeah, exactly. So that just primes people up to get them excited to actually physically get it in their hand, because it's always something about having something that you can tangibly touch to as a consumer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like the, getting the digital versions, but I also, as you can see back here, I have like a huge stack of books, which is actually, growing by the day, because I just like to
nothing wrong with that.
To get the physical copies.
Nothing wrong with that.
So I'll take the digital and the physical copies of it. So before we get out of here, I want everybody to go around and just say where people can find you.
Obviously, it looks like I don't know if my name is on the thing here. Let me look at the page. So usually I am on IG as JUI Brand, and a lot of my content is there. A lot of my like the character bios, all different individual artwork and stuff like that. That's primarily where I post a lot of my stuff. But you can actually pick up the Scrap comic book. Issues 1 and 2 are out right now. They're actually on npccomics.com, and basically they're available physically and they're available on digital. So I would appreciate like any type of support we get on that. Also, they're on Comixology as well. So if you just want the digital, they're on Comixology as well. But like, that's those are the places I would suggest that you check me out. So
you can find me at Ricky Pleasant on Instagram, at Breakaway_comics on Instagram as well. Breakaway Comics is also on Facebook, www.breakawaycomics.com, and you can go there to get your copy of Princess Zaya. And like I said, it comes with a set of colored pencils as well, so you don't have to worry about going out to find anything to draw with. And I'm just looking forward to meeting everybody. Say what's up to me when you see me out there in the internet streets. And I really appreciate this again. This has been awesome.
Of course. Yo, I just started following both of y'all, so instant fan. You guys can find me at Vantage Inhouse on all forms of social media. Also, You Create Comics. That's the letter U, CRE, the number 8 comics.com, where you can see all the different supplies that we have for helping everyone from kids to adults make their own comics from start to finish. Obviously, I've got a Kickstarter going on, the VIP Phase 2-in-1 campaign. We have another like 2 weeks left. We're at 250% of our funding goal. The whole idea, again, is to expand the Vantage In-House multiversal library of titles and characters that we've been producing. So by supporting this one campaign, you get 2 new titles where most people are only focused on one. We're going to give you a whole bunch of stuff. So
nice.
All about creating more content for our core audience. Give you guys the VIP treatment is what we call it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
If you are looking for other stuff to do, weird things, or where all the like the weird Black people hang out, you can always come find Midwest BSFA on Facebook, Instagram, and I am usually somewhere on Twitter being silly.
I need to utilize Twitter more, man. Like I'm just trying to figure out like what I need to do, like you know what I mean? Because
especially for comics,
it depends on what you're trying to do. Like I'm usually there promoting our local stuff. I'm also like building relationships with people just through being silly.
Yeah,
like, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've met in person and like just created some really good friendships with people off of following them on Twitter and them following me. So it's useful. It's really useful.
Yeah, I just gotta figure out how I want to use it because like I post all my stuff on Instagram. It's like tons of art and stuff like that. But it's just like I was asking somebody the other day, like, hey, what would you want to see me put on here? And then somebody said panels. I was like, I started putting up like a couple of panels from the book, and I was like, okay. Cool. Let's see where this goes. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's kind of that. So, I don't know. It's something.
Well, I want to say thank you to all of our panelists.
Absolutely,
I will definitely be seeing you sometime in the future when when outside can officially be opened back up.
Yeah.
I don't trust it right now. I don't know about nobody else.
I mean, it basically we really like for ages we always thought like, oh man, people are stupid in the zombie apocalypse. Now we realize it was a documentary.
It's just people. It's just people.
It's a documentary. Like
everyone is acting like they would hide getting bitten by a zombie, and I'm just
sure would.
I will be right here in my house.
Yep.
But until then, until we are back at conventions, I will see you on the interwebs.
Indeed. Indeed. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen and lady. So
yeah, absolutely. You guys have a great one.
All right. See you guys.